Thank you guys for coming back in, for tuning in. We're going to keep right on going where we left off, looking at this Antichrist system in Revelation 13. Not going to give any background. If you have missed the series, this is, I think, the 18th video on this. So please go back and catch up so you don't think I'm just a madman talking craziness because you missed how we got here. Okay, so Revelation 13, verse 7, we ended on last time. The Antichrist is going to be given so much power and authority, he's going to make war against the saints and be able to conquer them, wipe them out, and actually kill them, as we'll see in a moment. We're just going to keep reading through this chapter. Verse 8, and if you have a category that's all, what's left out of that category? Nothing. All who dwell, different word than tabernacle in heaven, those who are dwelling on the earth will worship the Antichrist and the dragon. And let me tell you this, I've said this before. I promise you, because I know enough in the Spirit, there is going to be music that accompanies this Antichrist government that I believe will be some of the most powerful music ever heard. It will be profound music, I believe, that is going to lead into that worship. And if you want to get an example of that, go to the book of Daniel when he said everyone has to worship this golden image that was about 80 feet high. And at least 3 times, I believe 4, it says, and it lists all these instruments. And when the music began to play, they all fell down and worshiped the golden image. And when the music began to play, they all fell down and worshiped the image. I not in my notes for sure. It matters what kind of music we listen to. When God created Lucifer, it tells us in the book of Ezekiel, he built into him beautiful, amazing capacity for music. It says tabrets and harps, the musical ability. That's why Satan can anoint music groups, bands, whoever, new age artists, that the music is really beautiful, but there's something in it that's dark. So that's just my own opinion. Verse 8, all on earth will worship him whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb. And this is not I'm sorry, ESV, pretty good translation. In this verse, terrible. It's not what this verse says in the literal Greek. You can look it up online, Bible Hub or anywhere else. I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but it's important. What it actually says is, everyone whose name has not been written in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain before the foundation of the world. That's what the original language says. Not their names were written in a book before. In the book of the Lamb who was slaughtered before the foundation of the world. There's a very profound truth here. In the mind of God, Christ was already crucified before the founding of the world. God was going to make a way of salvation. And Christ says, and this is very misunderstood by people, 1 Peter 1:20, it says Christ was foreknown before the foundation of the world. How can you know someone foreknown? That's for another day. We'll talk about that. Christ was foreknown before the foundation. In God's mind, it was as if it's already done, because God speaks of those things that are not as if they already were in Romans 4:17. I know some of you might think like, wow, that was nitpicky. Who cares? No, these are important issues. I'm just, Teacher Jamie kicks in. Down, boy, down. Control yourself. Okay. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. God is saying this, I'm now describing what planet Earth is going to look like if you are not taken in the rapture and are alive at that time, which I believe is not very far ahead. It's like this ominous aside. It's kind of like someone that's describing a toxic, sarin, poisonous gases, and Iran wants to loose it in the subway systems of New York and all that, and they're really planning to do it. And someone says, listen, I'm telling you, you live in New York City. I'm just telling you. I hope you have an ear. They're planning to do this. And I know you ride the subway every day. You might want to look into something else as an alternative. Hear me. That's what God's saying here. I'm telling you now what's coming on the earth. Hear me. Listen. Don't just blow this off. And then he says, if anyone is to be taken captive, they have to go into captivity. If anybody is going to be slain with the sword, this is a unique, poignant. With the sword, they also are going to be slain. Here's what he's saying. The Antichrist system, if they are going to go kill with the sword, which they will, they're also going to be destroyed by it. You know, the old thing of don't be too quick with the gun because you may end up getting shot with the gun. And then he says another very deep, poignant, here is the endurance and the faith of the saints. Here's what he's saying. What I'm describing to you now, this picture of this time, those who are here are going to have to endure. And they are going to have to hold on to faith like no other believers in history. I'm demonstrating to you that my people can still go through this with endurance and faith. Although it's so horrifying to the human mind. Okay, we got to hurry. Verse 11. I'm just going to read now and then we'll come back. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had two horns like a lamb. How many of you have ever seen a lamb with horns? No, doesn't happen. Why is he saying this? This is now going to describe the false prophet that is the right-hand spiritual leader under the Antichrist, who's the political, even though he's also profoundly dark spiritually because Satan is living in him. But he's now going to describe this false prophet that is in a major way going to be the mouth and the influence to get the world to worship the Antichrist and actually Satan himself. And it says he's got two horns like a lamb. Horns signify authority, power. But a lamb doesn't have that. But it says he speaks like a lamb. You ever seen real powerful leaders that are dark and sometimes they speak very peaceably, seem pretty harmless? And I'm sorry this may offend some of you deeply, but someone like Pope Francis, who's very evil, but he speaks, so kindly little Italian. But he has horns. He has great authority. Verse 12, this false prophet exercises all of the authority of the first beast, the Antichrist, in his presence. He's right there, sort of very mildly, worship him, not me. But if you don't, you're dead. Do we understand? No, namaste. But that's what it's going to be. It's going to be seemingly very religious. He exercises, he makes the whole earth and those dwelling, that word dwelling means hunkered down, your foundations are here. The tabernaclers are gone, the ones who were like Abraham living in tents. Light, this world is not my home. I'm a citizen of heaven, not here. I'm living here, but I'm not a citizen. I'm a citizen of another land. These are dwelling, hunkered, foundation, like Lot in Sodom had a house with foundations right in Sodom. And when the angels came, he was doing business in the gates. He had been sucked into Sodom. And it's even more ominous when Jesus said, at the end of the age, what we're looking at prior to the rapture, it'll be like the days of Noah. And he gives that. Then he says, and it's going to be like in the days of Sodom. And then he says something so profound. Remember Lot's wife. Why her? Because when the angels were trying to rescue them and get them out of Sodom, she turned around and looked back. Why? Because her heart was still in Sodom. We go, oh, how could her heart be in Sodom? How could your heart be in Seattle and Gomorrah? I'm serious. We just had a parade about a week ago with a dozen naked, full naked, ugly adult men riding bikes and walking right up to children in the parade like this, naked. 10-year-olds. You don't think we're living in Sodom? No, we're not, because it's modern. We have cars and big buildings and IT. And the Seahawks can't be Sodom. Yes, we're living in Seattle and Gomorrah, but we can't see it. And neither could Lot's wife, because all she saw, they just found Sodom. They did a huge archaeological dig. The rock is melted. And scientists, secular scientists say this cannot happen unless you've got like 5,000 degrees. There have been meteors where there's like an explosion of heat that melts everything. The archaeologists that found it said if what happened at Sodom happened in LA, it would have wiped out everything down to San Diego and everywhere around. That's how huge the wipeout was that came from heaven. Fire from heaven. And I'm not trying to sound, oh man, he's really, wow, he's a preacher. No. I'm simply saying God has to open our eyes so we can see. Much of the church is blind. Their heart is here in this culture, and they don't want to do anything to rock the boat. And the false prophet, verse 13, performs great signs. This word signs means something that's so miraculous that those who are there are completely affected by it. It says when Jesus healed all these people in the temple, here's what it says. The people were moved out of their minds. They were beside themselves. It means they were out of their minds. They were astonished at the works that Jesus did. The same will be true on earth. Because there's going to be profound miracles. It says we'll see in a minute. Great signs, even making fire come down from heaven in front of all the people on earth. Verse 14, and by the signs that he's allowed to work in the presence of the beast, this is the false prophet doing this. It deceives everyone living on the earth except for the believers that are still holding on to the word of God in prayer and are going to have to be killed right up ahead. And those who are dwelling on the earth that are fully deceived by this, he's telling them to make an image to the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. And I'll just tell you this, I personally do not believe this is going to be a Muslim terrorist that has a sword and hits the Antichrist. And he's wounded, but he comes back to life. I believe it's talking about the sword being the power of the Word of God. Like it says, a sword comes out of Jesus' mouth when he comes at his second coming. I believe the raptured saints, prior to being caught up, are going to deal a massive blow to this whole Antichrist system and the Antichrist, and it's going to look like he's dead. That it's going to affect the world this is what I believe, so profoundly that it just stops this system that looks like it was just ready to come into being. But then it recovers from that wound after the raptured saints are gone. Because there's no more powerful restraining force like it was in the overcoming saints that were taken. You can put that on the shelf. You can't get it. And it was allowed to give breath or life to this image. I have some real ideas about what I think possibly might be this image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak. It's an image, but it can speak and cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. What could be an image that can speak and yet somehow has some innate ability to tell who's part of the system and who's not, that needs to be killed, done away with? What would an image be? I'd tell you, but then I'd have to, no. If you come back next week and the week after, okay, so somehow the false prophet is able to do this through this image, whatever that is. Verse 16, and it causes all, both small and great. Billionaires, the guy next door. Rich and poor. The top politicians on earth, most powerful generals, the wealthiest, the Gates, the Elons, both free and slave, to be marked with a mark. This is different than the image. This is not the image of the beast. This is different. It's a mark, right hand or forehead. And I don't believe it's a tattoo. I think it goes far beyond that. But, verse 17, so that no one, there's some technology and a system that if you don't receive whatever this mark is, what happens to you? You cannot buy or sell. In other words, you're locked out of the entire financial system. And here's what's hard. People read it and it's like, well, I'd have to really, let's see. I want you to think of this. Have you ever gone to like an ATM and something's wrong with it? How frustrating it is? That's your life on earth if you don't receive this mark. Except it doesn't get fixed on Tuesday. It's permanent. You are out of the system. I hope you can get this. There's a lot of people that are like, well, if I go in the rapture, that's cool. If not, yeah. Literally, they feel like that. Yeah. No. I'm telling you, the high calling, 7 times in the first 3 chapters, whoever has an ear, it says it 7 times. Whoever can possibly hear what I'm saying, and it's Jesus speaking. And then he says, if you overcome 7 times. If you've got an ear, listen to me. You must be an overcomer to receive these rewards that I tell each church age. And I will tell you this right now. I believe all of those are available to all the believers in every age. He simply highlights it to give us some clues about church history. But all of those are available to all of, I believe, everyone from the time of Christ till now. No one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. And that's not the image, it's different. That is, now he's going to say it, but it is also the name of the beast. The mark and the name are synonymous in some way. But the mark or the name of the beast are synonymous, or, now it's a third one, or the number of his name. Most people just go, hey, the mark of the beast. No, there's very specific things here that are really important. This image of the beast is something very profound and powerful. Taking the mark has to do with the financial, and the number, I don't know. And here's what's so hard. Most people, all they want to know about end times is, what is 666 and who's the Antichrist? So this is where it gives us that. It says, you can't buy or sell unless you take the mark. That is the name of the beast or the number of its name. Then verse 18. And here's what it literally says in the Greek language. Here, emphasized, here is wisdom. Listen, right here, I'm going to tell you something. This is wisdom. He that has understanding, highly emphasized. That's those two phrases. Here is wisdom. If you have real, profound understanding, that's who I'm talking to. Not Joe Blow, who never studies the Bible, the pastor who just gets up and speculates, this guy on YouTube that just guessing. No, he's saying, here, I'm going to give you wisdom. But only to those who have real understanding. That's what it means. Not silly authors, but Daniel's and Joseph's. You're going to have supernatural understanding to get this. Let him count, and it means calculate or compute. I thought that word's so interesting. The number of the Antichrist and his system. For it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Endless speculation on that. We're not even going there right now. We'll talk about it later. We need to go to the book of Daniel, and we'll do this to close out this session, because you'll be astonished that, and I should have looked up the date, maybe all of you have all the knowledge in the world at your fingertips, so maybe somebody who knows it or can look up when the book of Daniel was written. I just can't remember. I'm guessing it was probably 600 years before Christ, right around there. So we're talking something that was written 2,600 years ago, roughly, I think. Daniel chapter 7, let's go there, and we're going to start reading in chapter 7. This, in the Old Testament, is the greatest picture of the Antichrist system. You tell me if men wrote this book, or if God wrote this book. We're only going to read the verses in this chapter that have to do with the Antichrist system. Notice how many parallels there are. It's astonishing. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast. God has been giving Daniel visions of these world kingdoms. Now, it is really important. Daniel's writing during Medo-Persia that had conquered Babylon. Greece conquered Medo-Persia, became the world. That was the fifth. And then Rome conquered Greece. That was the sixth. But from his perspective, he's seeing these systems going forward. So to him, the fourth one is the final Antichrist system. After this, I saw a fourth beast, terrifying, dreadful, exceedingly strong, great iron teeth, and it devoured everything and broke everything in pieces and stomped on what was left with its feet. That's a pretty scary picture if it's a world governing system. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, all the other world governments. This one's different. And it had 10 horns. Wow. I was looking at these horns, considering them, and then up came from among them another little horn, which is the Antichrist. And 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. Now, I want you to see how astonishing this is. 3 horns were plucked up when the Antichrist came up amongst the 10. And in this One, the Antichrist that came up, it had eyes like the eyes of a man and a mouth speaking great things. Remember, we saw 3 times he has a mouth speaking blasphemy. He has this powerful mouth. He speaks with authority. Same thing here. Verse 11. I looked because of the sound of the great words that this horn was speaking. He's just astonished at the ability for this thing to speak. And I looked, and the beast was killed, the Antichrist, and its body destroyed and given over to be burned with fire. He's now seeing the very end of it, what's going to happen to the Antichrist. In the book of Revelation, it says he's cast alive with the false prophet, alive into the lake of fire. That's what it tells us. And that's what he sees here, Daniel. He has no idea what he's seeing. He has no idea how long it's going to be before it happens. Verse 15. I'm not leaving things out. There's other things that talk about Jesus will have the kingdom forever. They're glorious, but they don't have to do with what we're looking at this morning. So I'm just going to the verses that talk about the Antichrist system. As for me, Daniel, verse 15, my spirit within me was anxious. He was just troubled. And the visions of my head alarmed me. I approached one of those who stood there, an angel, and asked him the truth concerning all this. So he told me, here's the interpretation of what you're seeing, Daniel. Verse 17. These 4 great beasts are 4 kings who will, in the future, arise out of the earth. Again, from his perspective looking forward, not from us looking back. Verse 18. But, I love that little word sometimes. The saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, forever, and forever. I hope you hear that. I want to tell you this. I wanted to tell you this at the beginning. In our little church here, you know who you are? I want to remind you because you forget sometimes, and so do I. You are the smartest, wisest people on earth. Not the billionaires, not the athletes, not the rock stars. You have received truth. You have a kingdom that will never be destroyed. You have been paying prices, and it can seem like, why do I go through it every day in my head? I'm trying to live for God, and I just feel like I fail and I stumble, and I feel like I'm probably just a frustration. I'm like a zit to God. No. You have no idea how glorious you're going to look someday in His presence with a body like Jesus. Joy forever. You're the smart ones. Don't listen to the media trying to marginalize you, just saying, you have no value. Sit down, shut up. We have got this thing going on. And they're fools. And what's coming into our culture is showing that they're fools. And they're destroying everything they touch. It's like toxic. But you get to rule and reign forever. Verse 19. I hope that encourages you. We're looking at these dark things. Be encouraged. Then I desired to know the truth about this 4th beast. That's the only one he's focused on. He's not even interested in Greece and Rome, which was different. Exceedingly terrifying. Iron teeth, claws, stomped on everything. Verse 20. And about the 10 horns that were on its head, I want to know what they are. That came up, and then 3 of them fell. I just want to say this. This is how marvelous God's word is, and maybe I'll have to end with this. Oh, I'm so frustrated. Could you guys stay till dinner, please? It's always a catch. Okay. In Revelation 12:3, prior to the rapture, he describes seeing this last world government that has 7 heads and 10 horns, but only 7 crowns on the horns prior to the rapture. Here he says there were 10 kings, but 3 of them got knocked down by the Antichrist. These are the leading political, financial people in the world, these 10 kings that are going to rule with the Antichrist. But 3 of them get put down right before the Antichrist has his full power. That's right when the rapture, and that's why it's in Revelation chapter 12. When we get to Revelation 13, we just read a beast having 7 heads, 10 horns. Oh, by the way, the crowns were on the heads of the 7 heads, all the world kingdoms now. The final world kingdom is in existence. But in Revelation 13, the crowns are on the 10 horns. Now, not only is the Antichrist system a full world government, but the Antichrist and these 10 major men or women that are rulers in the world that get to rule with the Antichrist, who give all their power and authority to the Antichrist, they're now crowned in Revelation 13. It's the heads in 12 saying now the last system, but in 13, when the Antichrist comes into full power, now everything is in place. It's amazing. How would Daniel write 7 and plucked up 3 and there's 10, but the little one does it? I mean, God's word is so powerful. Oh, I have to read this because it's so close to what we just saw in Revelation. Daniel 7:21. I looked, and this horn made war with the saints and prevailed, conquered them. Exactly the same as what Revelation 13 says. Verses 23 through 28, here's what it tells us. Maybe you can put it up there and kind of real slowly, Mike, just the 10 horns shall arise. This other one will arise after. He'll be different than all the rest. He'll pull down 3 kings. And in Revelation 17, it says the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings that don't have any kingdom as yet. This isn't the king of England and the king of Spain. These are powerful financial people that don't have any visible rule, but they're ruling behind the scenes because money rules stronger than any government. They don't have a kingdom yet, but they rule for this one short hour, this season with the beast. Okay, we have to leave it. I'm going to just butcher it because I'm trying to hurry. Let's call it a day. Let me just say this. If God is able to show that there's a time when no one can buy or sell. I remember being like a 10-year-old boy, and I said to my mom, how could there ever be a time that people couldn't buy or sell? I actually had learned these verses from my mom. And she said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, I'd just get on a plane and fly somewhere else in my 10-year-old mind. There's never been a time in history where this could be pulled off. 1840? Can't control people back then. 1950? Can't go to this place, that. They don't know who's who at the zoo. Now, get on the FBI's most wanted and try to function. Cameras every 4 feet. Technology. Like I said the other week, now they can tell from the back, just a camera view of me walking, they can say that's Jamie Hansen because of artificial intelligence. They don't even need to read your eyes or a thumbprint. And so God, here's the last point I want to make. It's really a big one. When he also says a marriage is between a man and a woman, when he says, follow my word, when he says, don't give in to fear, Jesus said, don't let one anxious thought past your bedtime tonight come into your mind. Don't fear. And when he says, husbands, love your wives exactly like Christ loved the church. And this is so out of context, but I'm saying it for a reason. Wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands as unto the Lord. Are you killing? Are you crazy? Do you know who my husband is? I know. And he said that to you. And he said, I have to love Nancy like Jesus Christ. If he can write these prophecies that are so exact and so accurate, then we need to take all of his word seriously. even our least favorite verses that we want to cut out so badly because that's what we keep running up against. Like, forgive everyone from your heart, no matter what they've done to you. I hate that verse. I'll never forgive my dad. I'll never forgive that pastor that sexually abused me. And in the human realm, you shouldn't have to. It's horrible. And God says, yes, even that. Otherwise, you're dying and he's just out there living his life. The guilty one. Why I'm saying this is this. Love God's word. Fall in love with his truth. We're going to see next week. The ones who are judged on earth that go into the Antichrist system and are deceived, there's one thing it says about them. They refused, not that they couldn't understand it, they refused to receive a love for the truth. That's what it says in 2 Thessalonians 2. So I'm urging you today, don't just begrudgingly accept truth. Love it. Look for it. If you see it's truth, no matter how high the price tag seems, buy it and keep it and don't let go of it. And don't let anybody talk you out of it. It'll save your life.